Hey.
Cool.
Okay.
Wow.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Uh, hey, everybody. Things do look a little bit different this week than previous weeks.
What's different?
Um,
I can't tell.
We're sitting a little bit further apart than what we normally do.
I mean, I'm looking at us and we're together on the screen, but
That's true.
you're in a different place.
Oh, yeah. I'm in prison, as you can tell.
He was on the naughty list.
I was. Santa put a subpoena in my stocking.
Santa said, "Fuck your coal. You're going straight to jail." Speaking of which, Merry Latemas and coming up on the Happy New Year.
Merry Latemas and Happy Pre-Year.
Happy Pre-Year. God.
It's like that post Christmas before New Year's funk where like it's just a formality week. Like that's all it is.
I was like, this is the perfect setup for that weird week because both of them are on a weekend. And so literally it's just like we gotta just go through the motions again, and then we get another weekend.
Exactly.
I haven't even been back to work since the holidays because as soon as I got home, I got sick, which is why
we are
doing this.
The episode. There
you go.
I like your setup. I love the Elvis in the background and the Rocky poster. Is that Rocky 1 or 2?
It's
or
Rocky
3,
1.
Or the one where he fights a robot.
It's close. It's Rocky 1, and as you can see, SpongeBob has decided to peek through in the reflection. It's so terrifying. Look at him. He's literally just
a TV screen.
It's on. No, it's a blanket that I got in high school, and I've put it over a window as like a shade.
Oh, nice.
And so when the light comes through, it just really, really illuminates this guy.
You know, it really adds to the Rocky poster. It's okay, Rocky. You go when you feel like it.
It's okay. Take your time. Well,
okay.
Do we want to get into today's topic? Do you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. So now that we've kind of gone through the preliminary stuff, we'll go ahead and put a thing here saying, if you have not seen Spider-Man No Way Home, this is a review. We're talking about our favorite moments, what makes it good, what would we have liked to see different possibly. And this is full on spoilers, so if you've not seen Spider-Man No Way Home, thank you for joining us thus far, but it's time for you to go.
But get the fuck out of here.
Come back, go see the movie, see the movie, and then come back. Pause us, go watch it, keep the Spotify app open, come back.
Leave your phone, don't touch it, hop out of your house. Are we gonna...
Yeah, let's talk about it.
All right. It was so... freaking good. Okay?
It was fantastic.
Let's just start there.
Just to set that straight. Expectations like
met and exceeded.
Yes, met and exceeded. Above and beyond.
Yes.
Like I could not have asked for something better. The perfect combination of great storytelling, script writing, and fan service. Holy cow.
That was the biggest thing for me, was the fan service, because obviously they've always thrown in a little here and there for fan service, but like this was like every little thing that I was like, oh, I hope to see this, or I hope that they do this. They did it, and I went, yep, there it was. That was it.
There it is.
I was hesitant. I was like excited, obviously, and like excitement beats any other emotion I had. But I was also hesitant because like the age-old question of like, will it work if there's too much came to mind, because it always happens with a Spider-Man sequel. But they figured it out. They made it work. And I think the reason that the whole plot worked, and why, like, thinking like on a grand scale why it was able to work with this movie, is because if you think about it, nothing too extreme happened. Like, on the fantastical side, yes, we see people coming in from different dimensions. Yes, we
Mhm.
see the cracks in time opening up and people starting to seep through. We see all that. But at the same time, it all took place in New York. It all only dealt with these beings in the present with each other. It didn't expound on that at all. And I think that's what made it work, is that they basically, it's the plot is they were pulling from other things, popping them into this
Yes.
story, and then working with this story. And then by the end, it all disperses. And I think that's how they made it work.
Yeah, it was an incredibly balanced movie. Like they did
Yes.
not force feed us. It was fan service without force feeding it. Like they did not
Yes.
try to fit in too much at one time.
Yes.
And some villains. I mean, we had five we were working with. And some villains did get more of a spotlight than others, which I think is okay
Yeah.
because whenever you look at the lizard and Sandman specifically, they did
Mm-hmm.
not get as much attention as Doc Ock, Electro, and Green Goblin, and I think that's
So,
because they had a majority of their story pretty much resolved in their respective films. They had that closure moment in Spider-Man 3 with Sandman and Peter Parker,
mm-hmm.
the apology, and so he could kind of release himself from that. And then the lizard had already turned back into a human at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man. It was alluded he was going to come back after the Amazing Spider-Man 2, um, but he still had that moment resolved. He saved Peter at the very end of the Amazing Spider-Man. So their stories, as far as I'm concerned, and I think a lot of people would maybe agree, they were already resolved. So they didn't really have much more to tell,
Yeah.
um, which is okay. Like I could not have seen them being the main focus. They had their moments, which was great,
Yeah.
but really, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Electro, who still had those open-ended stories to tell,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think it was just the perfect mix of that, and they finally were able to handle multiple villains well.
Yeah. 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 I think, yeah, I was going to say the Flint Marco storyline, it's one of those where I appreciated his character in Spider-Man 3 and his depth of like his family issues and him trying to forgive himself and move on from his past. Like we already saw that, and then he came back and he has a moment of like throughout the film where he's just like, I don't know who's right and who's wrong, so I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna like figure it out as we go along. That made sense. Um,
Yeah,
with the lizard, I'm gonna be honest, it sort of didn't make sense to
yeah,
me why he was the lizard, because we saw him turn out the lizard. But if we're talking movie, um, what am I trying to say? If we're talking about movie logic, then he
yeah,
was probably plucked from a moment when he was still the lizard, and
yeah.
he, So we were just like, cool, yeah, fine, he's the lizard again. Why not? And then I think, yeah, of all the villains that deserved to be a bigger story in this movie, it was Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Electro for sure.
Absolutely. And it's since we're just on the topic of like Sandman and stuff like that, I feel like they could have just added something to give him more motive in the film.
Yeah,
Because his whole idea was just I don't trust anybody. It's like okay,
yeah.
that's fair,
It's like
but I
sure.
mean Green Goblin using, um, like using Norman as a weapon could have been like, hey, we can help your daughter. Hey, I know your daughter's sick. And that could have
Mm,
it in itself been
yeah,
enough for him to reignite why he's doing what he's doing. And
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
wouldn't have had to have been a huge thing either. It could have just been a not a throwaway line by any means, but just something else to kind of help with the depth of why he's doing what he's doing again.
yeah, 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 yeah. Um, I kind of, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll jump on that more when we get into the like what we would have seen more of,
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
wanted to
sorry.
see
I
more of, and what we.
totally
No, you're totally fine. I'm glad you brought it up because yeah, that's one thing that I thought of, and with the lizard as well. They just sort of seem like, obviously in a writer room, it's going to end up being like, all right, we need to focus on these characters. These characters are here. They'll do stuff, but like these are,
for sure.
So that always happens whenever you're creating an ensemble thing. But still, even with their little, like they had a contribution, even though it wasn't as big of a contribution as we would have thought or hoped.
Right.
Like they still did a thing, and it was fun.
Yeah. So just initial reactions. We were going into the theater. We were trying to we went to a 10 we went together. We went to a 10 p.m. Showing. So we were trying to ignore everybody coming out of the theater, just trying to hold conversation with. I don't want to hear anything about this movie until I'm in my seat.
And they were pretty good about that. I didn't really notice.
They were.
Maybe we were doing a good job at deflecting it, but I didn't hardly notice anyone talking about it while we were going.
Yeah, it seems like people went out like the other exit of the movie theater as opposed to like going out the main door. So maybe that was a conscious decision of, you know what, let's do this instead.
The heart of the people coming through.
Yes. But just going in, we were just bouncing off the walls. And they're showing they show commercials now before previews, and so it went like slowly dim, and I'm like, and it's like, oh shit, previews, okay. And then it went like slowly dim again, and then it was like, and then it's like, please enjoy the movie, and then fucking Nicole Kidman decided to come on the
Nicole Kidman
screen
pops out, and you're
in
like,
the AMC commercial. And I don't get why they're showing AMC commercials in the AMC. I'm already here, so
they want us to know that Nicole Kidman cares about our viewership, you know.
Well, I'm glad.
Well, okay, fine.
But no, we get in, and then finally the movie is starting. And the amount that we just like beat the shit out of each other in this movie.
We would just smack each other as soon as, because like there were times obviously when the theater, all of us were just like, yeah, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But like us being us, we probably subconsciously were like, we can't just scream at everything, and so we decided to take out physical aggression on each other. It felt great because every time I went to do it, I knew you were going to do it too, and it was just a moment of just like, okay,
yeah,
and then like back to it.
And it was so good. Like in the very beginning, I love the beginning of this movie. Honestly, like how quick it was. It just it didn't drag anything. It just caught us up to, hey, shit's fucked. Like, and that was it. And then you had like little small Easter eggs at the very beginning, like where it's like Miss Jones Watson. It's like, okay, Watson. All right, cool.
Yeah. I thought that was crazy. I was like, I guess we haven't really heard what her full name is, but that is I guess an MJ variant. Is that what we would call?
I guess
MJ in this universe.
Yeah, if Loki rules apply, then yeah, I guess just a variant of MJ.
They just basically were like, this is MJ Watson. This is a MJ Watson. And we were like, great, cool.
Yeah. And then just immediately after, just the Matt Murdock reveal.
Let me. That was the best way they could have introduced that character. So we're in the heat of it. Peter is in trouble. He's getting investigated. Everyone's getting investigated. And they're like, oh, we're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle and we need help. And I think I've only seen it the one time. You've now seen it twice?
Yes.
Okay. Were they like, we need a lawyer, you need to get a lawyer and all this stuff? Did they just keep bringing it up until he arrived?
No, the only time they said the lawyer thing was whenever they were in the police station saying, I want to talk to my lawyer. And that was it. And they were just... Happy was just talking about the picture they used on the news, and immediately after that, just goof.
Oh my god, it was literally just like one of these. He just comes in, and he's like, boom, Matt Murdock. So what we're gonna do, and everyone was just like, ah! Like we just screamed. It was so well done, and the fact that he's only there for that, I was like, that was enough.
Mm-hmm.
That was enough. Because we've heard rumors, because it's not exactly confirmed, we've heard rumors that he's going to be in She-Hulk, and he's going to have a bigger part. I think he's going to be in a few episodes, not all of them, but he's definitely going to be in a few. And so we're probably going to see more of him in the future. But that was just a brilliant introduction, and that's when I went, we're in it. All right.
Yeah.
I went, if they're giving us this early, there's so much more to come that we're not ready for.
Yeah, because when this movie started, like the rumors started flying, and they're like, "Oh, Matt Murdock." I'm like, okay. And then I saw Willem Dafoe was going to be in it. That was the most unbelievable one for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that I saw that in the trailer, I was like, oh. But yeah, and so just the goof and just yeah, and then it makes you wonder. It's like, oh, are they starting over? Is this gonna be like, is Daredevil still a thing? And then he uses his power to catch that brick, and Peter's hand is just—he was quicker than Peter.
He was
catch
quicker,
it, and
he's blind. Blind. Yeah. It was so just whack, and everyone just went, oh, like in the theater. And yeah, and even Peter, it was the catch, Peter, and then Peter's just like, oh, well.
How'd you do that?
Yeah.
I'm a really good lawyer.
Like, I'm a really good lawyer. That was so, I was like, fuck.
And we don't see him again.
And we don't, and that was it. And I went, I hope we see him later on, like in a future thing, so.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
On the side of that, have you watched Hawkeye yet?
Yes.
The episode that came on literally the day before No Way Home came out. Spoiler if you haven't seen Hawkeye. But
sorry,
Kingpin,
this is also a Hawkeye spoiler review.
Right.
Kingpin, yeah. Kingpin popped up.
The fact that, like, how connected it is, too. How they did that. They measured that. Kingpin on Wednesday, Matt Murdock on Thursday, and it's like, wow, this is the best thing ever.
We're here. And now I'm going to have to go back and watch Daredevil all over again because it brings up that question for me too, is like, are they continuing from what we've seen? And there's probably, obviously there'd have to be a time jump from when Daredevil ended to now. So I'm interested to see if in the future they explain that in any way or not. Because we got a little taste of it in Hawkeye, but even then, it's like, I don't know how far back this goes, / when did this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, which I have theories, which I'm not going to get into that right now because we're talking about Spider-Man, but we'll talk about it after. So we have that moment, and then it just goes into, what was after that? It was the MIT debacle of them not getting accepted because they were all associated with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and then are you gonna have a spider babies? There's just so much chaos happening.
The rudeness, I can't even. Yeah, it really shows you how quickly their lives can fall apart as superheroes / people involved in superheroes' lives. And I think that was one of my favorite parts about this, is that it didn't necessarily feel like it's Spider-Man and then Ned and MJ are also there doing stuff. Like, as soon as the secret got out, it was all of them involved. It was a them thing, and so throughout the whole film, they're working on, like, fixing things together. Sort of. Peter sort of goes AWOL a few times that we'll talk about, but I enjoyed that they didn't feel like side characters. It truly felt like they're a team, and that they are the best friends that he could have because they've been through everything with him.
Yeah, they, like, through thick and thin, they have done it, and they did it all the way up to the end. We'll get to that in a minute. MIT debacle. He goes to Doctor Strange, which this was all over the trailer, so we don't have to spend too much time on this. Unless you have, like, points of, like, the spell or anything like that. But spell fucks up, and now villains that know who Peter Parker is are coming in. We get the big reveal on the bridge that we've been waiting to see. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Peter.
And the fight sequence was beautiful.
It was really good. I was afraid that the whole CGI Doc Ock arms thing would be an issue, but I think, ever since the MCU started, especially whenever Spider-Man was introduced, they've just been like CGI everything. So like I think we're I think we're just kind of used to it at this point, and so it didn't throw me off too horribly. But it was just again, like you said, it was just quick. He shows up and he's still evil, and he's just like, Spider-Man, gotta kill you. And Peter's just like, I don't know who you, what? Hello?
Hi.
Hi? And yeah, and then they fight, and they get, does the pumpkin bomb thing happen, and then they do the Doc Ock pinning him against the pillar and revealing that he's
No,
MCU Parker, or did that
the
happen first?
the very last thing that happened was the bomb.
Okay,
The arm comes out. It's the reveal of you're not Peter Parker,
right.
and then just that first little Easter egg of like, oh, oh,
Okay.
and then the pumpkin bomb happens.
Yeah. A thing that I didn't expect there, which I think was done very well, just because like that. Uh, it's always, I've heard people talk about this of like how much Iron Man and Stark tech is involved in the MCU. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say it. It is. We're just gonna have to get used to it. He is the
Mm-hmm.
founding member of this whole journey. He has done so much for the world, New York, the Avengers. He's sticking around. His stuff's going to
Yeah.
be there. We're just going to have to get used to it. So, that being said, whenever the nanotech, when Doc Ock is pinning him against the thing and the nanotech seeps in and he acquires it and it enhances his tentacles, that I was like, fuck, here we go. He's going to be so strong. And then in like a minute, like so quickly, Peter's like, oh, actually, this nanotech, and he just gains control of the arms. The nanotech takes over, and he's able to control him like a robot. And I
Yep.
was like, great, well, that's taken care of.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
that wraps up.
honestly, yeah. Which honestly, they handled it perfectly. Just because Doc Ock is one that turned. I mean, he turned good at the end of his movie, and
Yeah.
so to keep his damage minimal like that, and to finally regain control of that until like later on, it was enough. Like
Yeah.
we had enough Doc Ock action. And that was all the story we needed to see from this guy. We needed to know where he came from. We needed to be reminded of what his goal was, just the control, just knowing where his story left off without completely ruining his redemption arc from his respective film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he even explained it. He was like, later on, he was like, I had Peter Parker by the throat and I was about to kill him, and then I ended up here. And so literally he was plucked from that moment before he turned good, so that's why he's evil. And we were like, great, cool. Um and yeah, and so that wrapped up and I went, "Oh, I guess we took care of Doc Ock." So I don't know what's going to happen for the rest of this film other than we're going to see villains and fight them. So we'll see how that goes. And then like you said, the bomb comes in.
Yeah,
The
the
pumpkin
intro
bomb.
to the main villain of this whole thing, which I cannot begin to say how brilliant Willem Dafoe was in this film.
The fucking goat,
He
I swear.
he is such a he Green Goblin is such a great villain.
Yeah.
Arguably I think that he was one of the best villains or the best villain in the Raimi verse of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Just because the Goblin himself just wanted control. He just wanted power. He was just a menace to the city.
Uh-huh.
Um, and just seeing that reintroduction of somebody whose story felt like it was never finished, and so being able to get that 20 years later, it's like whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're back in the sanctum. Doctor Strange is explaining, "Hey, shit's fucked up. Now you need to go out and catch all these people. Go Scooby Doo this shit."
And you're like,
Um,
great, I guess.
Cool. And so the first one is they are going to this power company, which before the power company, we get to see shades of the Goblin again in that alleyway. where we get those
Mm-hmm.
monologues that Willem Dafoe does so well. The Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of it all, and it's just I just look. It's just so poetic. Like whenever you
Yeah,
look
yeah,
at it.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And the fact that they, in the imagery they're using whenever he's talking to the mask and then he smashes it and walks away, it's like a direct mirror of the Spider-Man picture that everyone's probably seen of the suit in the
yeah,
trash, especially the one in the shot in Spider-Man 2, the suit in the trash, Peter
yeah, the
walking
Spider-Man
away.
No More shot.
Yeah, and you're just like, great. Oh, awesome. Love that. Again,
Good.
a little bit of fan service where you're like, nice. I see what you did there.
The intro to all of these villains was perfect as well. Like Electro forming silently in the electricity. He's blue initially. It's like, okay, that's a
Charging
nod,
up.
cool. And we see him, it's like, oh, this guy's blue. And he just notices Peter. And just the 2014 dubstep drop of his theme music, just I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It's like, oh shit,
Oh,
he's
he's here.
back.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um and how it's so weird how powers for different villains worked differently. Like he just it's sort of an unexplained new power coming into this new world, because he kept saying, oh, I have new power, it feels good, I have my body back, but I can still channel my power. It's like, okay, it's like, you know what, maybe we don't need an explanation of this. It's just there. Like we don't have to go into a full-on like backstory of like why
Right.
the power is different here.
Mm-hmm.
And the reintroduction of Sandman, like we talked about earlier, where he's coming in to protect Peter, as he
Yeah.
should, because that's where his story left off.
That was, I think that's, while I loved it, it also threw me off because
Yeah,
everyone else thus far has been like, I hate Peter Parker. And so you're just like, oh, everyone's coming back and they're like, I need to kill Peter Parker. But with Sandman, he pops back and he's just like, Peter, what do I do to help? And Peter's like, what? He's like, huh? Oh, we're just gonna take care of that real quick. Um, and then I love that because the whole thing is Peter's out there, he's collecting them. Doctor Strange has made him this gauntlet, which is what we've seen in the promotional that we didn't really exactly know what it was. It's a I'm gonna call it a zapper. He zaps
there you
the
go.
villains into these like magical cages that are back at the Sanctum. And as soon as Flint sees Spider-Man zap Electro, he instantly is just like, you just killed that guy. That's not what Peter does. So I don't fuck with you anymore.
Yeah,
Like on a dime. And you're just like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's a new problem. Great."
yeah. I felt that, which I know that there were problems with, like there were so many different ideas with this movie, but because of the COVID of it all, things had to change, and so Thomas Hayden Church, and I cannot remember the actor who played the Lizard.
I know him. I just never remember his name. Reese something.
Yes, Witherspoon.
Yes, Reese Witherspoon as
And they basically just did ADR, and then they reused footage from their respective films. Um, and I felt that some of the ADR was a little. It felt like a kid show at times, especially with Sandman, where he's just like, "What did you do to him? Did you kill him? Hey, no, no, trust me. I don't trust you. I don't know you." And I'm like, "That's a little odd, but I get it." Like,
sure. Yeah, it's that I was gonna yeah. There's a few moments definitely throughout the movie where I was just like, this seems like it could have been put together better, but at the same
yeah,
time, we're working with a lot of constraints, and I'm sure there was a lot of
right.
pressure to finish this movie up. So
Yeah.
yeah,
There's so many expectations, so many hoops, so little time, really.
so little time. We don't have any time anymore.
So now, the last call we get is from Aunt May at Feast saying, "Oh, hey, that goblin guy you were talking about, yeah, he's over here."
He's here.
And
If you want to
Peter's
come,
just in a panic.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna
As
die."
he should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. No, he gets there.
He gets there.
And it's just Norman. It's
Pops
just
open the door. Just an old man sitting with some donuts and some coffee. Just so confused. He's
just
just
so
like,
confused with what's happening. And which I love the attention to detail here, because as he's talking, he says Oscorp doesn't exist. It's like, okay, we know that. And then he says somebody's living in my house. Watching Hawkeye, did you notice that there was an exterior shot and it was Norman's house from his movies, but Kate Bishop and her family lived there?
see, I thought it's one of those where, especially just in movies in general, that building is used a lot. And so I didn't know if it was like meant to or not. But
Yeah.
if it was, then pretty great. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Because
mean,
in Hawkeye, the mom character
right. Mm.
is a little, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense that she would be living there for sure.
Yeah,
She's just
yeah.
crazy.
So just the small connectors there, like it really just shows how big this universe is and how things don't have to be connected on a grand level. They can just be connected on a small level like that. I just thought it was a cool detail. It was a cool detail.
Yeah. Well, it made me, because he said that, and it made me just be like, so is Norman Osborn just like not a thing in the MCU?
Yeah, just not right now at least.
Not
and
right now,
which,
I guess.
Which I'll get into this whenever we get into like I guess problems with the movie later on. But yeah, and then we get into this idea of we got to help these people.
Yeah. Doctor Strange is like, all right, we gotta send them back because they don't belong here. But
Yeah.
during this whole time and during that moment, Peter is realizing like, oh, some of these guys are just going back to die, and he's learning that some of them could change / can change, um, whether them telling him of the previous incidents or not. But Peter, just as the person he is just like, no, I think we can help these people. I think it'd be better if we tried to like fix them instead of just throwing them back to cease to exist. And I admire it, but obviously the way he went about it was so horribly wrong. Just
Yeah.
because I think this is another one of those moments where Doctor Strange's arrogance, he used to have an arrogance to him. I think this is one of those moments where it came back because he's just like, no, what I say is right and we need to listen to me. And so let's do it. And then because of that, what happens?
Shit's fucked.
And that's the end of our episode. Tune in next week.
And that's no.
Shit's fucked. That's it. Wrap up. It's all fucked.
Yeah, just no. Yeah. Peter decides to just decides. You know what? No, I'm not a child. I can do this.
I'm not an 18-year-old boy.
Yeah, so Peter just takes matters into his own hands and he decides, you know what? No, I'm pulling the strings here. And so they go through that. What's the official name of that world?
The mirror dimension?
The mirror dimension. They go through that. And just, it really shows both Peter's, this whole sequence to showcase Peter's power and his intelligence.
His wit, yeah.
His wit. Because even whenever he is like separated from his body, the fact that his powers, like his spidey sense, is still there, like protecting him, even though he's not present. How he was still dodging the box, and you see his old tingles come out.
Yeah,
and it was just such a cool detail, and it's just
that was the
so...
yes, yeah. Specifically that moment, I was just like, oh, Peter's built different. I was like, this kid's built different because he was able to get shadow punched into the shadow realm, but be totally conscious and just be like, oh, never mind. I don't want that, and just swims his way back to his body. And you're just like, great, cool.
Don't do that again. Whoosh, and gone.
Yeah. You're just like, oh, all right, casual.
And he outsmarts Doctor Strange in this world with geometry, because math is cool.
Geometry.
And then finally, and I love how they wrote Doctor Strange in this movie, because once that happens, he's just gone the rest of the time. Because I was so worried it was going to be so like Doctor Strange heavy and Doctor Strange forward, and that he was going to be like this. Because they kept saying he's the mentor. He's the mentor. It's like he doesn't need another fucking mentor.
Literally.
At least not.
We've seen it. We've done it. We did it.
Yeah.
We did
so
it.
the fact that he was just gone, I was like, good.
I was like, oh, Peter's just really gonna leave him there. Great.
Yeah. And so finally we get the chaos to ensue. He takes them all out of the sanctum. Mm-hmm. They go to Happy's apartment. We get that cool little callback of like, hey, if you need any help, let me know. I'm something of a scientist
myself.
Yeah,
we all were just like, yeah, you are. Yeah, we get back to the house. The plan is starting to come together. His plan is he's using Stark Tech. He's using this big machine that basically, what is it? Is it just like a 3D printer on crack? Is it just like you just have an idea for a machine and it creates it?
Pretty much. I mean, it had an official name. I don't remember what it was. But it was basically just how he was able to create his spider suit. It's how he was able to find time travel. It's basically a glorified 3D printer. Like you had said. Yeah. And yeah, so they could just they created serum for Green Goblin. They created this new nano chip for Doc Ock. They were creating this reverse sort of sand, like neutralizer, I guess is what you call it.
The reverse of the giant sand pit was just made.
It's like Sandstorm. Just put it in reverse.
Put it in reverse. They took that whole machine and just made it a shot. It was just like
and then a container, not a container, but a device that contains
a Tupperware.
Tupperware.
The Tupperware.
For Electro and
to like suck all the electricity, the excess
to suck
electricity
him dry of
to suck lightning. Give him that good
that I'm not gonna say that.
I'm not gonna say
and what is about to ensue, in my personal opinion, there are a lot of great scenes in this movie, but this segment right here was probably the best scene in this movie.
Yep.
The pacing of that beeping happening on the machine, and Peter slowly just realizing something is wrong. The close-up shots, just following him as he's trying.
And then it stays on him as he's maneuvering through the house.
Yes. You see the people behind him out of focus, just kind of crowding around, like, what's happening? And the shots in this movie, they said that they paid a lot of homage to Sam Raimi in this. And the camera work was unlike any other in the MCU, in my opinion. Yeah. It just really told the story. It helped the story. Just seeing it, like, just the beep, beep, and it dun, 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 just the suspense was just building so greatly until he finally closes his eyes, realizes there's somebody in this room that was not here a second ago, yet nobody new has entered.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. That's so crazy.
He just detected
I haven't said that out loud
before. It's just,
right? He just detected a different energy. He just went, something shifted.
Yeah.
Hold on. And then just a quick,
and it's like, oh, what happened? And then you just see, oh, that sense of yours is some trick. And it's like, oh, he's here. And his teeth, the little detail of the teeth. Because
the teeth
in
is
his original movie,
favorite.
Yes, in his original movie, they had fake teeth for whenever he was Norman, but they used Willem Dafoe's normal teeth, which are a little jagged, for the Green Goblin. And we see that devilish smile.
And it's like the eyes that he gives at the end of Spider-Man 1 when he's like, Godspeed, Spider-Man. It's like that face when he just turns around and he's just like, and you're just like, oh, this is bad.
And we finally get to see the monologue come in and just seeing how he is shifting everybody's perspective in this room, except Doc Ock. Doc Ock is too smart for it.
How quickly he's just able to talk, and people just be like, I get it. And you're just like, what?
And then just the slow build up to May run, and she's gone, and the best fight ensues. Nobody can fucking throw down like the Green Goblin. Let me tell you.
I want to say real quick, going back to what you were saying
Yes.
about Willem Dafoe in the Raimi trilogy. A lot of people have an issue with it, and I think the biggest issue that people are talking about is like the suit. I still love the suit, but at the same time, like he was great in that film. I love the Green Goblin in that film. The Green Goblin as a character in general is great. This was like, I don't know how to describe it. You know, the like magnum opus of Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. It was like when that moment happens, it's like a writer just came into a room and hit a switch and was just like, all right, let's get serious. And they were just like, they beat the shit out of each other. It's such a good climactic moment for those two characters. And especially my favorite moment is the moment when Peter's on top of him against the wall, just hitting the shit out of his face, and he just whips back with all these different creepy faces. I was just like, this dude's terrified.
Yeah, and he's just laughing through it. It's so they took such good care of the Goblin in this movie, and they did not nerf him by any means. He showed more strength in this movie, arguably, than what he ever has.
Yes,
and he's just talking shit throughout the whole fight, saying what do you say? Peter Parker, strong enough to have it all, but too weak to take it.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Oh, and it's such a manipulative. And then when the fight continues to ensue, and he just, like, I physically felt when he throws him up in the air and just spine busters him through 3 floors.
Yeah.
And it's just such a brutal. It's one thing whenever you see lasers and gunfire and things being thrown like shields and hammers and just all that sort of stuff. But just something so intimate and personal of just hand-to-hand combat happening. Just, it's so visceral, and it's so... there's no, like... there's no gateway. Like, the hammer is the thing... Whenever Thor throws the hammer, he's putting his might into this to hit the other person. There's that pathway... What's that word I'm looking for?
Telepathic,
that middleman
sure.
Between the thought and the impact, whereas a fist fight is just person to person. Like, there's nothing that can get misconstrued. This is what I'm feeling about you. Fucking take it. Yeah. And when they finally reach the bottom floor, and he's just like in his face, strangling him, saying, morality, what was the line? Morality is your truest weakness. It's choking you. Can you feel it? He's just spitting and sweating all like this demonic fucker.
Yeah.
And it just I was scared. Like, this performance was scaring me.
He's a
like,
terrifying dude.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
And the final just nail on the head whenever Maid comes in and tries to save Goblin by injecting him, and that serum doesn't work. And you see that glider slowly come in, and you just know when that glider comes in with nobody on it, you're not making it out alive.
But like, it's like, if there's one thing we know about a personless glider, someone's dying.
Yeah. And it's like, I think there are a lot of people, I think, that were like, oh, maybe she's still going to be alive, but it's like, no. Nah.
It was one of those glimmers of hope that I was like, maybe, but they snuck it up on you if you didn't expect it. And then as soon as, like, the moment is starting to happen, you're just like, oh, fuck you. It's just a sigh of just like, I won't forgive you for this.
And the last thing he says to May, that Goblin says to May, as he's stomping Peter's face into the ground, is saying, "Morality, he got it from you. This pathetic sickness." And you think, oh, he's killing May just to get to Peter, but really, it's like in Goblin's mind, he's curing him of
Yeah.
the sickness that May has taught him, and it's like just getting into the thought process of the Goblin is just so it will drive you mad just trying to think about it because it's like so calculated. He's so calculated and meaningful with everything that he does.
And I know it's not the same thing, but it reminds me of when he's talking to Harry in the first Spider-Man movie after Thanksgiving, and he's just like, so he's talking about like Harry. He's talking about Harry being weak, and then the connection with MJ, and then he ends it with like, "Do what you will with her, then broom her fast."
Yeah.
Because the Green Goblin's always just like, number one, you just need this your own self to get what you want. That's all you need. So yeah, I think that definitely came through here. And then the most one of the start to one of the most heartbreaking moments in this movie is Aunt May just getting up, Peter's fucking hurting, Aunt May fucking hurting, and they're just hanging on to each other, and he's just like, "It's all my fault. I did this, all this stuff. I didn't blah 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 blah." And she just looks at him and is basically just like, "Peter, you did the right thing. You need to know that." And all of it to say, Aunt May is the one that was blessed in the MCU to finally give us the line of, "With great power comes great responsibility." She said it, and she meant it. And personally, I think, I don't know, I just loved the emotion that was with it. Like, it felt truly earned. With the other movies, not saying that the other ones are not as good as this, but with the other movies, it's just one of those like, it's Spider-Man. He has an uncle. Uncle tells him, with great power comes great responsibility. He dies. We just know that, so here it is. But in
Yeah.
this one, we just didn't expect that. I had no idea that that was going to happen. And then when it happened, I went, yes, that was so earned and
Yes.
heartfelt. And then immediately after saying that, we're just like, "Hey, May, are you good? Are you okay? Because
You okay?
I don't think you would have said that if you were okay." And then she crumbles in his arms. We find out that she's like bleeding both internally and externally.
Yeah.
And within moments of them just looking at each other, SWAT police arriving on scene, happy, getting there just in time to witness the aftermath of what just happened. Aunt May passes away right before Peter. Peter's heartbroken, and Happy is getting arrested, getting pulled out of his car, and all he can say is just like, "Run, just like get out of here." And I was just like, Peter's life is over. I was just like,
Yeah.
I went,
This
"How can there
guy.
be hope? How can there be hope?" I get it. I'm like, yeah, fuck, it's the world sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like this. Like he is at rock fucking bottom.
Rock
Like
fucking
it.
bottom.
Which the different way they went about telling that story of Spider-Man coming to be and how they had Peter lose. This is the most that Peter has lost before becoming Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, oh, he just lost his uncle. No, that's a big thing, but
And even that,
he lost.
we don't know. We don't know the whole story with that.
Yeah,
And I
there's a
don't
lot of
think,
like alluding to it.
yeah, and I don't know if we ever will. I was talking, who's to say? But I was talking to you about this. I was just like, maybe Ben was an important part of their lives, and yes, they lost him early on, but it might have been just like a little too early. But it's still like an important family member that they keep with them and all that. But they never seemed like so broken about it. Do you know what I'm saying? From what I remember, they never seemed like. I mean, he's brought up of like, it hurt to lose him, obviously, because like Aunt May's husband. But like, this was the one that meant, this was the heartbreak that he needed to push him into his next chapter for sure.
Yes, for sure. And it did throw me off too. Like whenever I first saw it, it threw me off just because like I've always associated the line with Uncle Ben, and I was like, okay, this is different. But then whenever you look at the original comic, that line it didn't come from Uncle Ben until the Raimi movie. That was just the way they wrote it in. But in the comic, it just came in as just a narration box. Basically, the narrator saying, at this point, Spider-Man knew that with great power, there must also come great responsibility. So anybody can say it. And so for them to fit that in with May, seeing the connection that they have built across 3 movies, like telling with 3 movies for an origin story.
They took their time.
Yeah, because one of my biggest grievances with these Spider-Man movies up until this point was there was no long-term storytelling. I'm like, there's the movie ends and then those stakes are over. Like there's nothing that's carrying over.
Yep.
But this totally just reorganized everything that happened, and I'm like, I respect it.
And okay, I think it's because in the other ones we were relying on movie logic, and especially superhero movie logic, where we're still trying out the superhero movie thing. We don't know how long it's going to go on for. So they're like, all right, we just got to bust out this story for this movie, and then we'll bust out this story for this movie. But now that we've had time to build a universe of superheroes, I think they nailed it. They were like, this movie went, we knew what we were doing the whole time. They were going, just wait, just give it some time. And they ruined it.
They delivered.
Yeah,
they grabbed you by the heartstrings. They really did.
So Peter thwips out of there. He's like, I think my life is ruined. And then one of the most like poetic cinematic moments of Spider-Man history, superhero history. It feels like a comic frame up on the screen of just, it's the shot from the trailer. Peter's just broken, bleeding in the rain, just like by himself during, like, after all this has been said and done. His brain's probably reeling, not able to process a lot of what's happening, but still processing the worst parts. And then it like snaps around to the screen on the building, and it's just J. Jonah Jameson. I've only seen it the one time, so if you want to pop in the details here.
Oh, just basically recapping what just happened at the bottom of this apartment building.
Oh yeah, because J. Jonah Jameson was there. That was a little thing. He showed up. He had someone follow Peter back to his secret hideout, and he gets there and is able to capture the villains fighting each other on camera, and now he's reporting. Yeah.
And it's just J. Jonah Jameson.
Even though we love J. Jonah Jameson, fuck J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh,
he is literally,
you love to hate him. He's
the worst in this movie than he's ever been, because I'm just like, well, this is just straight up rude. This is just, this is mean.
And he's basically just hammering in the idea of there's one person dead here, and all these villains all these mutants are here, all these people are here terrorizing the city, and there is absolutely no one to blame for everything that happened tonight except Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
And so for him to just sit there thinking about everything, already feeling guilty, and now he's basically getting confirmation of, this is all my fault. Like, I decided to try to help these guys. They could have already been back in their things right now, in their universes right now, and now I have lost everything because I was trying to do something that was right, and it spat in my face. And at this point, just looking back on everything that Peter's always been through, or Peter's ever been through, but to see everything personal to him just being stripped away as we see, as stripped away in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
He is now at the most broken state that he has ever been in. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I bet he's also feeling pretty bad about leaving Doctor Strange behind, even though he hasn't thought about him once since he dropped him off. But, like, he's lost help. He's lost friends, like he thinks he's lost friends, he thinks he's ruined his friends' lives. His life's ruined. So he's just down. It's just a bad time. It's a bad time to be Spider-Man. Let me tell you.
Yeah. And so with that, we have reached the end of part 1 of our discussion of Spider-Man No Way Home.
We got you. You're gonna have to come back. You're gonna have to come back and listen again to hear the rest of it.
Listen again.
It's our plan.
But no, really, there's just so much to talk about with this movie, and just splitting it into 2 parts is probably going to be the best option of just making sure we get everything in without exhausting the process.
Also, in part 2, we're going to be talking about some pretty big things, and this might give you some more time to go see the movie if you haven't seen it, because we're getting into some the real nitty-gritty here in a minute.
Because who can save Spider-Man other than himself?
But more on that later.
More on that in the next episode. So, thank you once again for joining us on a episode of
Double A's.
Batteries Not Included. Come in next week for part 2 of Spider-Man No Way Home. What the hell?
See you, chump.